Welcome to the Living Out podcast, helping people, churches and society talk about faith and sexuality. Hello and welcome to the very first Living Out Christmas special. I'm incredibly excited about this. We've never done it before, possibly never do it again, but we'll see how it goes. We've got a great show for you today. We'll be sharing some of our favourite things about Christmas, as well as talking about some of the challenges of this time of year and how we can enjoy Jesus even when it's difficult. Almost the whole team are here with me, so a massive welcome to Andy, Ed, Andrew and Dan. Just to let you know that throughout this episode, whenever you hear the sleigh bells, we'll be having a quick fire Christmas question, so look out for that. Let's start with something not too serious. Do you have any quirky Christmas traditions in your household?
I don't know if it's particularly quirky, but we always get a present from the Christmas tree.
That's quirky.
You got a present for the Christmas tree?
From the Christmas tree, yeah. So there'll be a little present wrapped up, hidden in the branches, and it's very clearly Mum and Dad's handwriting on the label. It's your present from the Christmas tree.
Are they like a tree themed? Is there what kind of things does a tree buy someone for Christmas?
They're usually small things, like maybe not so much now, but DVDs or like something to go with a present you got on Christmas Day. I think we normally open them on Boxing Day. It's like a bonus present.
Oh
wow, I like that.
I was imagining those Christmas tree shaped air fresheners for a car. I thought that'd be the classic. Surely that's what a Christmas tree gives you.
Surely.
My sister and I buy each other scarers in our stockings. We do a stocking for each other, and we, because we like to have some useful presents in, we buy each other the same scarer every year. Just normal behaviour, I'm sure. Wow.
That is unbelievable.
It's not unbelievable. You know that's true because you know.
Yeah, I know it's true. Oh gosh, wow! I haven't got anything quirky enough now. I was thinking our present ritual is it takes a long time because we go from youngest to oldest round in a circle, and you can only open one present at a time. So it normally takes about 5 hours when we were younger, because it'd be me, my brother, my sister, mum, dad, and 2 grandparents. So
and then back to the beginning again.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So there's no chance of us watching the Queen because we were still going with the presents.
Well, we hadn't started opening presents by that point, so it was always church, lunch, washing up. This is pre-dishwasher days, and then presents. It was the only time in the year my brother and I would help wash up quickly.
Wow. You know how to have fun as well.
It's made me the man I am.
I don't think my family have any quirky traditions, but the thing I wish had become a tradition is a couple of years in a row, we had those crackers which have little instruments inside of them. We had whistles one year and handbells another year. And my grandparents, and you then kind of have numbers, they're numbered, and you play Christmas carols by playing the numbers. My grandparents were still with us at that point, but were beginning to age a bit, and it was just so hilarious, them trying to keep up and ring their little bell at the right time. It was the best laughs we had at Christmas, so I kind of wish that had become a quirky Christmas tradition for us.
Yeah. I think fun and funny things is definitely the way forward. Actually, it probably is a Christmas tradition that my mum does something hilarious every year. So kind of related to your Christmas tree present, Dan. My mum one year decided to get some pine Christmas scent to spray all over our artificial tree just to make it seem a bit more realistic. Except it just made all the Christmas tree chocolates taste like washing up liquid. It was disgusting. Although Christmas is often an enjoyable time of year, it can also be tough, especially for those of us who aren't married or in a romantic relationship. What have you found hard about being single at Christmas, and how can friends or family or churches help with that?
I'll start by being totally mercenary and talking about the number of Christmas presents. Because there was once you get to the stage of life where most of your relatives, siblings have paired off, what happens is you buy both your sister and your brother-in-law a present, but they jointly buy you a present, or you buy your brother, your sister, a brother, and their kids, and they all buy you once. There was one year where everybody had a pile in front of the Christmas tree, and mine was considerably smaller, and I had to pretend I didn't notice, but I did notice. But actually what was wonderful in my family context is that my mum noticed, and every year since she's beautifully overcompensated by buying me extra presents so that my pile is not so obviously smaller than everybody else's. But it is the problem, isn't it? You spend a lot of money getting a whole family presents, and then they just get you one thing back.
Yeah, I've kind of overcome that now by buying a family present. So if somebody's married with 3 kids, they don't get 5 presents. They get 1 present for the household, which is probably a bit rough on the kids because it's normally not something that interesting for them. But, economic needs must.
Good idea. I think for me, one of the things I find difficult about Christmas, I feel more conscious of Christmas than any other time of year. I don't have my own family in the sense of nuclear family. You just feel so conscious. The majority of friends are spending Christmas with their spouse and their children, maybe their in-laws as well. And often people are spending Christmas in these really large family groups which are grown and grown through spouses and children. And actually my family group has shrunk over the years. I have 1 sibling. They're also not married. There are no children. There's just 4 of us now, normally on Christmas Day. And I'm so conscious of all my friends often being in these huge family units, and it can wrongly send me the message if I'm in some way not as grown up as my friends. I'm in some way, just not as mature and haven't progressed through life rightly. And I just have to work hard, basically, reminding myself that's not true, and just enjoying the blessings God has given me. And I think one thing that helps with that actually is families that involve me in their family as well. So my Christmas will always be spent with multiple different families. And so I do get to be involved in the lives of children, say, at family. I get to be involved in large family groups as well as smaller family groups. And that's been a real blessing and a real highlight for me, actually, of the freedom to do that in singleness. But a lot of it's just actually me noticing in myself what the kind of my experience and situation wrongly tells me, and just give myself a talking to, but actually it's not true that I'm not a proper grown up because I don't have a family, I don't have kids.
How has it got to the point where you're able to sort of spend Christmas with other families and things? Was that something they initiated or you initiated, or did it happen organically?
Great question. Probably a bit of both. I mean, I think the ideal world, it happens by actually just developing relationships over time and investing into them during the year. Actually kind of friendships aren't just for Christmas, so kind of investing through the year. I would sometimes it would be people have kind of extended the invite to me, and that's encouragement to any listener who's in a position to do that. It's just such a great thing to do, to be opening your home, your family to people at Christmas. Sometimes it is me pushing in, and it's kind of great questions to ask are things like, is there a time over the Christmas period, or is there a time across Christmas Eve through to Boxing Day I could come and spend some time with you and your family? Because being a little bit pushy, which I think we should be as singles, and that's fine, but also giving some kind of window, and it's not saying I'm turning up at this time. I have friends now who would say that, by the way, I'll be turning up at this time on Boxing Day or whatever. But actually, if you're not quite at that level, to say, is there a time across these few days, I think, gives people a nudge actually, we can make sure there is.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Andy, what about you? What do you find hard, and what helps with that?
I mean, it probably is friends who just naturally disappear, and I'm not quite as pushy as Andrew. But it's a very time, between December and January as a whole that I can come round. Does that work? That tends to be more my approach. But I think, to be fair, sometimes it is friends who still at the stage where their parents are alive, and I know Christmas gets busy for them because they've got to go off and see the husband's parents and then the wife's parents, and you just acknowledge that often they end up doing quite a lot of travelling, so they're not around. So I think it can be sort of friends disappearing for understandable reasons because they're often away from the area. I don't know. I mean, I guess friends. I mean, I suppose one of the benefits of technology these days is phone calls, text messages, and stuff like that is much easier than it used to be. And so actually trying to keep in touch with friends via those means, and friends who actually answer the text messages, they can be quite useful. Just again, in a sense of the community that you rely on for much of the year hasn't totally disappeared between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, I think I struggle with a lot of the similar things. People disappearing, people spending time with their nuclear families. I think 2 things that I found that help. One is expecting that and then anticipating it and actually planning for it. It's something that happens every year, so it shouldn't take me by surprise. And actually sort of looking at my diary and thinking, okay, these are likely to be times where I'm feeling a bit lonely. What can I put in? What events can I go to? Who can I meet up with? So actually sort of trying to plan a bit of structure in. And I think the other thing that I found really helps is I find it quite easy to feel sorry for myself sometimes, and actually getting outside of myself and volunteering for something, doing some active service, thinking, you know, how could I be generous in a way that might be unexpected or be a blessing to somebody who might be having a harder time than me. I think that just helps to change my perspective a little bit, you know, and stop me moping about.
I think similar to you guys, like, until now, I guess it's always been like a fairly big family Christmas, everyone together, but now it feels like that's starting to shrink and siblings are off with their in-laws or away or whatever, and it just feels a bit quieter. I'm like the young one in the house on Christmas Day. But that's also, I love spending time with my parents and grandparents, and I guess it's just me planning time and siblings planning time to be with each other at other points over Christmas. And
you can give the alternative king or queen speech as well. I do it every year. I tell my parents I'm the only of their children that hasn't left and cleft. You know, I'm still there. I still love them. You know, others have forsaken them, but I'm still there, and I think that cheers them up.
Ed, only you could come up with the phrase "left and cleft." I don't think I could get away with that. I always used to find it difficult as well when I was, especially sort of in my 30s, and it still sometimes happens now. People say, "Oh, are you going home for Christmas?" And, you know, I've been living in Newcastle for 22 years and paying a mortgage here and everything, you know, this is my home. But they mean, are you going back to your mum and dad's? You know, and, you know, I'm 46. I think I'll stay here, thanks.
And that's the interesting thing. I think people are less like that for people who are married. And so I sometimes am with friends for Christmas Day elsewhere in the country, because I'm very blessed to have close friends who experience the family elsewhere. And people, not my own family, but other people, sometimes make me feel really guilty about not being with my biological family. And I'll always do a Christmas Day with my family some other time during the week. But it's just interesting if people have the assumption, because you're not married, of course you must be with your parents as if you were still a teenager, say, and make you feel quite guilty when you're not, which I think wouldn't be true if you were off at the in-laws, say. So just recognising sometimes some of our prejudices, almost our expectations for single people, can be helpful because it puts unfair pressure on us.
But that means you can't make the left and cleft speech, though.
Well, that's true. No.
Well, that's what made me think of it. You know? Actually, it's really nice. My parents are coming up to have Christmas with me in Newcastle this year. So, nice. It's really nice that they kind of recognise that that's a big thing for me. So, very grateful to them for that.
Does that mean you've got to cook?
Abby's cooking.
Oh, of course, good.
Yeah. Otherwise, there'll be no vegetables.
otherwise, it's a bowl of Weetabix. So. What's the best Christmas present you've ever had? And I'm going to go to Andy.
Oh, sorry, this is going to confirm me in my sort of middle-aged, middle-classness. I once got given a whole set of golf clubs, which...
Oh, my goodness.
which was an amazing present and have been well used in the years since. So can I just point out, this is Christmas just reveals exactly what we're like. So Ed is giving pompous speeches, Andrew is playing sort of musical bells, and I'm getting golf clubs. So basically Christmas is just us at our most extreme forms of our personalities.
Oh gosh. Thanks, Andy. Dan, what about you? Can you save us from the stereotypes there?
Well, I think the present I got most excited about was when I was about 4 or 5, and I got a toy Hoover, which looked just like my mum's Hoover, so I could pretend to, or sort of help her out with the housework. And I just got so excited, sort of died behind the sofa, because I was all embarrassed and excited about this toy Hoover, and it just had some little, like the beans you get in a beanbag kind of thing that sort of jumped around when you turned it on. That was... Wow. All I needed that Christmas, apparently.
Amazing.
That's brilliant.
Did it actually hoover? You can get kids Hoovers now which actually do hoover as well. Did it work?
Oh, wow. No.
Oh, yeah, they've improved them with modern technology. I know.
Yeah.
Did you get a scourer to go with it?
No. We always used to get a toothbrush in our stockings, but there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I used to always get in my stocking, very strangely, all the things I needed for school the next term.
Oh, excellent. Someone's got their head screwed on there. So was that your favourite gift, Ed, or is there something?
Oh no, well actually that obviously my mum potentially, I think perhaps behind the stocking too, but there was one Christmas where there was a piece of music, in fact on the box of delights, which was I have talked about with passion. I've given a speech with passion about the box of delights on a previous episode. Oh. It starts with a beautiful piece of music called the Carol Symphony by Healy Hutchinson, and this is in the days before the internet. None of us quite knew what the piece of music was. My mum tracked down the piece of music and she bought me the CD of it, which was a very lovely thing to do. And it's still it is one of my favourite pieces of music, but I never knew what it was and I could never listen to it as a whole. But my mum found it for me. So that remains a particularly favourite Christmas present, partly because of the research she did to get hold of it.
Yeah. A lot of thought's gone into that. Wow. Andrew, what about you?
I was thinking back to childhood. The odd thing that sticks out, I remember getting this little thing. It's always the little gifts kids are most excited about, isn't it? It's called a drinking bird. You kind of like stand it next to your drink. It's like a little plastic, felt bird thing, and you tip its beak down into your drink, and then either physics or the dark arts, I'm not sure which, makes it basically go back up, and then gradually over time it works its way back down like it's taking another sip, and then it goes back up. I just remember being quite enamoured by this little creature as a child. Wow. But as an adult, it would be a gift I've shared about on this podcast at the start of this year, my favourite gift from last year, which was my Phantom of the Opera Eric teddy bear, which lives in my study. The team I'm
having nightmares still, having seen that.
I know. We've now seen it in the flesh, and I know what you mean, Ed.
I love him dearly.
I'm glad you do.
Do you remember in series 2 we did the episode "Is the Living Out team just weird?"
Yes, we're now producing repeats, aren't we?
Yes, quite.
I don't really have a favourite present. I think I got a Scalextric set when I was younger, and I loved that. But I'm not massively into gifts. I'm more into kind of spending time with family and friends and stuff like that. But if anyone wants to buy me a secondhand book, I'm never going to say no to that, just in case any listeners are feeling generous. So for me, sexual temptation can often be more acute when I'm travelling or I'm out of my normal routine or I'm feeling lonely, which can particularly happen around Christmas. Can you guys relate to that, and how do you deal with it?
Yes, I can definitely relate. I think for me, just any time I'm not busy is an issue. Most of life is quite busy. You stop at a time like Christmas, you're less busy. That's just a kind of danger point. So I think two types of strategy I'll use. One is I will be deliberate about connecting with people. So if I've got a week off, say, I'm going to be deliberate about when am I connecting with people and that. Because I know if I begin to feel unconnected and isolated, that's going to impact me. And I find just having stuff in the diary, even if I'm not spending lots of time with people, knowing I've got time coming up just makes a big difference in terms of feeling connected. And then just like practical things. So I say I'm not good at not being busy, kind of full stop really. So even in my time off, I always be quite active and get out of the house and do stuff rather than me sitting around in kind of a dangerous point. So between Christmas and New Year, I'll be going for walks, I'll be going to the gym, just things that help me not just sit around and kind of do nothing. And my fail-safe trick, or my thing I resort to, is puzzle books. It's just if I do find myself with nothing to do, I'm at home, I don't want to be working, so I want to be switching off, but I don't want to let my mind just wander, I will use a puzzle book because it engages my brain for long enough for unhelpful thoughts to go away, but it's not kind of too overly taxing and vaguely enjoyable sometimes. So that's a helpful little trick I found.
Excellent. Favourite type of puzzle?
Code words I'm currently on.
Oh, I like them. Yeah. Excellent.
If I can interrupt the puzzle book conversation, I think the thing that helps in the fight against temptation of any form, I guess, is joy. So actually, when I'm enjoying stuff or enjoying God, actually that will reduce temptation, because temptation's or giving way to temptation is often a kind of anaesthetic to ease pain, and so finding anything to enjoy and actually consciously enjoying it in God's presence. So it might be a puzzle book, it might be music, it might be the food we get at Christmas, or it might be actually remembering the Lord Jesus and his coming to earth, but consciously enjoying that in God's presence. So not enjoying it behind God's back, but turning it into thanksgiving, into joy. Anything you can enjoy and thank God for will probably ease some of the battle against temptation.
Well, also just think, when you don't have a routine, it means that some of the things, perhaps the time of the day where you normally pray or you normally spend some time meditating on God's word go. So just do something very different. That would be one of my pieces of advice, is just perhaps take a book to read over Christmas, which you can just pick up, in the very changing different patterns of, a family Christmas. So actually recognise holidays are different, therefore why not do something different when it comes to prayer, Bible meditation, over Christmas, and sometimes returning to an old favourite. And actually, last week a number of us were together, and Andy was recommending the Screwtape Letters, and I've just put in my diary for Christmas Eve, pack the Screwtape Letters, because it's an old favourite. I know that Christmas Day onwards I'm going to be away seeing various people, and the Screwtape Letters will be a really good place to be over the Christmas period because of what it says and the joy it will bring me.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because one of the things I find difficult sometimes is because I'm very reliant on having a good structure to my day and a good routine. Particularly, that helps with mental health, it helps with spiritual health. And I find that when I'm staying at somebody else's house or my routine's disrupted, it's quite easy for me to sort of miss my times with God. And one of the best ways that I connect with God is going for a walk. So I've got better at saying to the people that I'm around, I need some introvert time and I need to just go for a walk on my own. And that's how I get my prayer time. I think as well, it just helps me to think forward again, a bit like I was saying before, to sort of emotionally plan. So identify times where I know I'm going to be vulnerable, and tell friends, get some prayer cover, have particular scripture promises actually that I can remind myself of when I don't have a lot of headspace and there's people all around me, and a journal as well. That's something I've only come to this year, but I've actually found that really hard, that at times where I can't pray out loud because there's people everywhere, being able to sort of write down prayers and write journal thoughts helps me as well. Dan, what helps you?
I think I'm very similar to Andrew. I need to be deliberate about spending time with people, and probably something that helps me do that is switching my phone off more. I've been quite deliberate the last few years about that on Christmas Day, but I might think about doing that on more days over the break. I guess the phone is often sort of the source of a lot of problems, or where temptation starts, and just spending time away from that and with other people is probably quite helpful for me.
That's a really good tip, because it's easy for us to spend time scrolling without even sort of intentionally thinking about it, and it can lead to not good places. So that's a brilliant piece of advice. Thank you. So this is one of the highlights of the podcast for me. What is your favourite cracker joke? Let's go to Ed.
There has never been a cracker joke that has made me laugh. So I'm afraid I am not the person to turn to this one. I mean,
You prefer the trivia, don't you?
Trivia, yeah, nice little quiz. Yeah, sort of political quiz or a literary quiz would be great, but jokes. Never found a funny one.
Can I also point out the Living Out podcast is the only place where you would go from sexual temptation to your favourite Christmas cracker joke.
Welcome to our world.
As soon as I raise that, shall I give you my Christmas cracker joke?
Yeah, please.
So, who is Santa's favourite singer?
Oh, I read this one. I can't remember.
Elvis Presley.
Oh, brilliant. That's a groaner, isn't it? That's a groaner. Andrew, can you do any better?
I just love the absolute classics, so why couldn't the skeleton go to the Christmas party?
Had nobody to go with.
Yeah, I just do find it a really good one.
It's a bit poignant though, isn't it?
Maybe that's like subconsciously related to it, maybe. Yeah.
Let's just have a moment for the skeleton. Dan, have you got one?
What was the snowman doing in the vegetable patch?
Looking for his nose?
Picking his nose.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's quite good.
That is good.
That is good.
That is good. Oh, I love it. Okay, well, I've got 3 for you.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Shortly.
Okay, here we go. How do you know if Santa's been in your garden shed?
There's no hose left? No, 3 extra hose. Ho, ho,
There's
ho.
3 extra hose! Nice. Okay, number 2. Why are there no jokes about turkey giblets?
They've been taken out.
No, because the punchlines are awful.
Oh man.
So you raise a slight smile there, but more because you laugh at your own jokes, which is always an endearing characteristic, Anne.
Which author steals train sets from under the Christmas tree? It's more of a quiz one, this.
This is becoming more of a quiz than anything else, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
You're engaging me. This is good. I still don't know the answer, though.
It's Nick Hornby. Excellent.
That's pretty good, actually.
That was trains. We like that one.
Yes, indeed.
Move on quick, please. No, we're not going anywhere near trains. Please.
Christmas can be tough for those of us who are same-sex attracted and or single. So I wanted to let you know about our friends at True Freedom Trust. They offer lots of points of connection for Christians struggling with sexuality, including online and in-person groups, one-to-one support and socials. So head to truefreedomtrust.co.uk to find out more. Often Christmas involves spending time with family with whom we have problematic relationships. So how can we be gracious and loving with parents or siblings or relatives that we find difficult?
Well, this is a trick, isn't it? Because I think my mum listens to this podcast. So, hi, Mum.
Hello, welcome, Mrs. Shaw.
I think generally, isn't it? And this is true, isn't it? Of all relationships, none of us spend enough time thinking about what difficulties we might bring to the relationship. And we're very, very good at focusing on the difficulties that other people bring to the relationship. And I wonder whether sometimes Christmas is a chance for us to reflect on some of the things that people might not be looking forward to about us being around, rather than necessarily always the other way around. And I'm not sure how my parents, for instance, would answer that question, but there will be things about me that people find difficult, and actually spending a little bit of time reflecting on how I can lessen people's difficulties with me might be, quite Christian response to Christmas.
I think that's such good wisdom. I was thinking the same. I've reluctantly come to realise over the years a lot of my issues with whether it be family relationships or other relationships are actually rooted in me, not them. That I am the issue, and that can be kind of just insecurities we carry, hurts we haven't dealt with, which can just make us really unhelpfully sensitive to things. And I've realised so often, actually, my overreactions to things are because of issues in me, not really because what happened was hugely problematic. And just getting to know myself better, taking some deep breaths and thinking, why did such and such a comment or such and such a thing make such a big impact on me, can be really helpful. Because often I realise there's something in me and I can make a choice about how I respond to that. And that's actually, in some relationships, done an awful lot of good, actually. So sometimes looking at ourselves is a good first step.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it dawned on me 2 or 3 years back that one of my temptations, particularly at Christmas, was to want to be quite selfish. I kind of work during the rest of the year. I want Christmas to be ideal for me, and getting quite sort of irritable when it wasn't. And I think partly a shift of mentality to say, actually, if I have a kind of, I want to serve others within the family at Christmas, if I have that kind of serving mentality, I'm more likely to be bearable myself to be around. And so, yeah, serving rather than being selfish is just quite useful for us if we're going to actually add to others' enjoyment of Christmas.
I think that's a really helpful mindset. One of the things that I've tried to do, especially in situations where there's kind of a mixture of people that I don't know quite so well, and maybe people aren't very happy about my Christian faith and that kind of thing, just trying to find common ground, trying to find some subjects that we're both interested in, asking good questions. I mean, I suppose this is a good relational skill generally, but it seems to work particularly well when you're all kind of, you're all in a big room together, there's alcohol involved and things, but just thinking of good questions to ask that show that I'm interested in somebody, I think really helps. And sometimes I even kind of have a little mental list of things that are good conversation openers and a good way to sort of deepen relationship, show that I care about somebody. I'm not brilliant at doing it, but I'm trying. Dan, what about you?
For me, with some of my wider family, Christmas would be the only time I see them, and they're not Christians, and there are some sort of tensions in the background which I don't really know the ins and outs of, but I guess it's just that sort of one opportunity in the year for them to be with a Christian or a few Christians, and just to be distinctive in that, I guess, and not get involved in whatever gossip or whatever is going on, and just sort of loving them and trying to see them through God's eyes, I suppose. Although it's not easy sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, that's massive. I suppose that's where kind of praying beforehand as well really helps, doesn't it? That we will love people and see them as Jesus does, and that we will be kind of salt and light in whatever situation. I mean, I guess Christmas is quite a missional opportunity often, even if we feel like we want to put our feet up, do a puzzle book and have a break. But it can be a really good opportunity to show God's love to people. It's time for the Living Out 2022 Stat Attack. We've published 12 new articles, 19 book reviews and 52 blog posts on our website. And we've had over 500,000 visits to livingout.org. We've made 24 podcasts and we're now on our 5th series. 667 people came to 8 official Living Out events. And we've had the privilege of meeting hundreds more at other speaking engagements around the country. We're really grateful to everyone who gets involved and supports us, and we hope that you're really encouraged by what we do. So we've just heard some of the highlights of 2022, but what are you most looking forward to in 2023?
We've got our joint conference with True Freedom Trust that we do every 2 years. That's on the 17th of June in London. Where we're going to think about the theme of how the church can be really good for those who are same-sex attracted, and hopefully it will attract both church leaders and those who are same-sex attracted. So we love working with the guys on the True Freedom Trust, so very much looking forward to that. And if I'm allowed another one, we had our first church leaders webinar in 2022, and I'm hoping there will be a few more in 2023 that will be on the website. So looking forward to stuff. And did you notice quietly plugging things as well?
That's the way it should be. Dan, have you got anything you want to look forward to / plug?
Yeah, I've just been to my first couple of Living Out days this year. So normally help organise them in the background by sending lots of emails, but it was great to get to go to a couple, and we've got 8 more in the diary so far for next year. Places like Southend, Dublin, Manchester. So look out for those, they're really great. And if you're interested in maybe having an evening event during the year, then do get in touch and we'll try and find a date for you.
Fantastic. It's well worth coming along to one of those days. We always have a great time, and hopefully the people that come do too. Andrew, what are you looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to some of the stuff we're going to do around emerging generations next year. So next year, first half at least, there'll be a big focus for us on teenagers and youth and those who are serving them. So one new thing, I think the first time we're announcing actually will be this podcast now, we're launching the Living Out Youth Leader Network in January, which aims at equipping youth leaders around questions of faith and sexuality. And so people who sign up to the network will receive newsletters in both email and video form, which are pointing to helpful resources, events that might be helpful. We're also going to record Q&A sessions for people who are part of the Youth Leader Network, where we'll be receiving questions from youth leaders and just taking some time to reflect on some of those, to share some advice and wisdom. I'm just looking forward over the year to seeing how that kind of grows and expands, and how we can seek to support people who are serving teenagers across the UK and beyond.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew. And Ed?
Oh, I think I'm going to be the misery guts, just to change things slightly. No, I think I'm not looking forward to 2023, because in the denomination I'm part of, the Church of England, I know that same-sex attracted, gay, sexual minorities are going to be a massive focus of conversations, and there's going to be potentially a lot of pain and hurt, which, to be honest, I'm not looking forward to. And I think there's a bit of a nervousness, as I peer into next year, alongside, confidence in God's sovereignty and a knowledge that there are so many people that are wanting to stand with me, us, but just also a bit of a sense of, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it is going to be tough, but it's good to know that there are people who are, supporting us and want to know how to navigate through this well. Thanks, Ed. I think the thing I'm looking forward to, I'm doing a lot of thinking about my own experiences of kind of gender confusion and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to trying to write some stuff about that and to share those experiences with other people. Also looking forward to getting some new authors writing stuff for our website. I'm very excited by how that's developed over this year. We've got all sorts of different resources and we're tackling different themes all the time. So I'm really excited to have some new voices, particularly getting some more female voices on there. I'm also very excited about my holiday to Slovenia, which I didn't get to go on this year because I fell on my face in a pothole. So, very excited about that. I don't know if I can say I'm looking forward to having time off from work, but anyway.
Well-deserved time off.
If you could only have one Christmas dessert ever again, which would it be?
Christmas pudding.
So Christmas pudding, is that just because you get to put loads of alcohol on it and set fire to it? Or do you actually like it?
I like Christmas pudding. Actually, particularly like Christmas pudding cold with cream.
Oh. Ed, how are we friends?
Yeah, well, question I often ask.
Dan?
I'd say banoffee pie. It's one of my favourites. And one year at Christmas time, we went to a pub which was the home of banoffee pie.
I think isn't that near me? I think that's in the south somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. It's called the Hungry Monk.
Wow. I wouldn't have had that as a traditional Christmas dessert, but fair play. Andy?
No, I mean, Dan is right. Christmas is the worst time of year for puddings because they're all horrible.
Yeah.
So ignore Christmas puddings, just eat a normal pudding, and banoffee pie, that's pretty good. I mean, much better than mince pies. They're foul.
Yeah, they are foul, I agree. Yeah, I don't think I like any Christmas puddings, probably with the exception of I can tolerate Yule log. I think that would tolerate, yeah,
chocolate
a tiny
cake.
little bit. Yeah, basically this tiniest little sliver, and then put loads and loads of squirty cream on it, and then it's bearable. What about you, Andrew?
I'm going to give a second vote to Christmas pudding. It's an easy question.
Oh,
Probably not cold, but still.
no. Do you have brandy butter on it, or custard, or cream?
No. Cream probably is the best, yeah.
Cream.
Yeah.
Very civilised.
Some freshness to
Excellent.
offset the kind of tartness of the Christmas pudding.
You could work on a cookery show. I thought it would be good to inspire each other with the aspect of the Christmas message that gives us most encouragement in our faith. So what is it that most inspires you about the Christmas story?
Where to start? I think, well, I mean, I'm in John 1 at the moment. I'm preaching through that at my church here in Bristol, and I've just been beautifully struck again by just the image of the light shining in the darkness, but the darkness does not overcome it. And I mentioned a few moments ago, not looking forward to 2023, but the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. And that has always been true, will always be true. And I love seeing the lights at Christmas and being reminded of the reality of Jesus as the light of the world every time I see a light against a dark sky or a dark background.
Love that. Thank you. Andrew?
For me, I think it'll be reflecting on the incarnation and the way that the person of Jesus reveals the character of God, that we get to see God incarnate and just see how he interacts with people, how he loves, how he cares, how he has compassion, and just getting to see what God's heart is like, and therefore what God's heart is like for me in the person of Jesus through the reality of the incarnation is just, amazing that we get that insight into the heart of God in that way, and just so encouraging to think that that is the kind of heart God has towards me is, wonderful and encouraging.
Yeah, that's similar to mine. I think the ordinariness and the approachability of the whole of Jesus's human life. I love the fact that he chose to be vulnerable with humble people who didn't have much going for them. Obviously, it started with a teenage girl and shepherds, and then it extended throughout his earthly ministry to tax collectors and foreigners and beggars and outcasts and nobodies, and that really it just makes me feel the generosity of God's love, that the King of the universe would come and enter human history and ultimately die a horrific death and rise again so that I could know him. That's absolutely mind-blowing. So I think for me, Christmas is always pointing forwards to the rest of Jesus's ministry and the amazingness of Easter. What about you, Dan?
I think very similar to you guys, just getting my head around like what Jesus gave up to step into our messy world, yeah, we were in Philippians earlier in the year, looking at Philippians 2, and him taking on the very nature of a servant and humbling himself in that way. I think I find that incredible, just thinking about the mess we are, and we're the ones he came to save.
Wonderful. And Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I love thinking about Jesus' full humanity. It's funny, we were talking about temptation earlier, and actually one of the things that also helps in the midst of temptation is to remember, according to Hebrews 2, one aspect of Jesus' humanity is he's able to help those who are being tempted because he's fully human. And if I'm allowed another, I always love meditating on Song of Songs at Christmas, because at the heart of Song of Songs is this image of a bridegroom, shepherd, king who comes from great distance because he wants to meet his beloved. And I reckon Song of Songs at Christmas, I did a blog on it last year. I love Song of Songs at Christmas.
There we go. Everyone's got to go and read Andy's blog on Song of Songs at Christmas. Not your obvious choice for a reading, but I'm sure we'll be massively blessed by that. Thank you. And finally, what's the one book, film or TV programme that you'd recommend to listeners that they can take the time to enjoy over this Christmas season?
I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but in the 1980s, the BBC did a TV adaptation of The Box of Delights.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Which is well worth watching.
I think Ed Zoom's got stuck on repeat here.
No, you will have your Christmas transformed by the experience. And if you can't get hold of the DV set, because to be honest, they'll go like hotcakes after the last promotion of it on this podcast, and just sit down and read John Masefield's The Box of Delights. You'll be charmed.
Oh, gosh. Has anyone got anything other than The Box of Delights that they'd like to recommend?
Why would we need anything else?
What if you're a quick reader?
The good news is he's written other kids' books.
Can somebody unplug Ed? Dan.
Well, I lived in Germany for a year, and over there it's a tradition on New Year's Eve to watch a British comedy sketch called Dinner for One, which is, there's this old lady called Miss Sophie who has sadly outlived all her friends, but she gets her butler to set a place for them all and bring them all dinner and pour them drinks, and he has to go around the table impersonating them and drinking all their drinks and slowly getting more tipsy. So yeah, it's quite a random tradition, but quite a funny little sketch to watch.
Not heard of it, and it sounds good. Andrew.
I've picked a book I read kind of in the kind of Christmas break a few years ago. Totally kind of not related to any living out stuff, but it's called Why We Sleep by a guy called Matthew Walker, who's a sleep scientist. Just so fascinating about sleep science in the last few decades. They've only just begun to realise really why we sleep and stuff. It actually really helped me sleep better as well. It's because it's a practical advice as well. And I'm not a big reader, to be honest, but it's one of the books I read and really enjoyed and kind of think actually I'd like to read again because genuinely fascinating stuff. So Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a good one in my books.
Oh, fantastic. And I don't have it on my book database, so that's one for the collection. Andy.
By the way, you can stream Box of Delights on BritBox, apparently. I've just been very checking that.
Well, there we are. There's no excuse. Who needs to read a book about sleep when you can watch that?
Yeah, they had the same effect, I'm sure.
I mean, sorry, again, middle-aged, middle class. Sort of watching old Morecambe and Wise's just has to be done at Christmas. Sort of the, all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. It's just got to be done, hasn't it? And only about half our audience might know where that reference comes from, but all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order.
Is that from the Andre Previn episode?
Or Andrew Preview, indeed.
Oh, of course, Andrew Preview. Yeah, of course. Yeah, my grandparents loved Morecambe and Wise. Yeah.
There we are. Do you see what bracket he's put you in there? That was beautifully. That's one of the best. That was one of the best put downs we've had on the Living Out podcast. Oh, well done.
Wow. And I think I'd probably recommend one book that I've read a lot of books this year, but one of the ones that I really enjoyed was a book called Deeper by Dane Ortland, which is a follow-on from a book he's written called Gentle and Lowly, and it's all about God's amazing deep heart of love for sinful and messed up people like us. So it kind of relates to some of the stuff we were talking about, the meaning of Christmas. And I think I just found it encouraging and faith building and inspiring. And when I'm not reading that, I do like to watch an episode of Columbo, because I'm introducing all my millennial friends to Columbo. It's absolutely brilliant. Really slow moving. There's no bad language or sex. You find out who the murderer is in the first 10 minutes. I mean, what's not to love?
Well, funny enough, my parents really liked that. So.
Oh, okay. So I'm a generation below Andy. That's what we're saying.
I'm relieved it's only one generation.
Things actually happen in the Box of Delights.
And on that note, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. I want to say thank you to all my colleagues, not just for appearing on this podcast, but for being great fun to work with as well. And thank you to everybody who listens into these podcasts, especially if you've been with us throughout 2022. We hope you all have an amazing Christmas. And our final episode of the year is going to come out on the 22nd of December. Don't forget also that there's plenty to browse on the livingout.org website in the meantime. Thanks for listening and have a great Christmas. Bye.